Why don't we go to the public comment for matters not on the agenda? Thank you.
Thank you. So the first speaker that we will recognize is Marcus Baisley, followed by David Hune, and then Jane Ward. We will bring Mr. Baisley into the meeting. We'll have Mr. Baisley unmute his mic. Mr. Baisley? There you go. You can speak now.
Mayor Gordo and members of the City Council. My name is Baisley, a resident of this beautiful. I am also a proud professional union carpenter. I come here today with other community members to inform you that we have corrupt criminal contractors doing business here in Pasadena. These contractors are stealing from you and me, our neighbors, our children, as well as the very citizens that you represent in your various districts. How are these thieves stealing from your constituents, may you ask? Through a common practice most corrupt contractors use, and it's none other than construction industry tax fraud. It is estimated that construction tax fraud is responsible for cheating communities out of millions of dollars in tax revenue. That is millions of dollars in lost revenue that could be used for building and renovating schools, repairing roads, caring for our veterans, sheltering the homeless, and funding other essential public programs such as after-school programs or daycare programs for working families. These criminals do not care about cheating the community who rely on these services to be upheld, diminishing the very reasons that most of us chose to live here. The prevalence of construction industry tax fraud here in the city of Pasadena has reached crisis levels that we, the citizens, have witnessed for far too long and must be stopped. This April 14th through 17th, Local 213 in Los Angeles and United Brotherhood of Carpenters are taking part in its annual Tax Fraud Days of Action. This is a week-long series of events raising awareness about construction industry tax fraud. The Tax Fraud Days of Action grew out of widespread outrage for tax fraud in the construction industry. A range of practices where employers evade their tax responsibilities in several ways, often intentionally misclassifying workers as independent contractors or paying workers in cash-only arrangements. The result, these businesses significantly reduce their income tax and payroll tax responsibilities, defrauding communities out of much-needed tax revenue.
1 minute left.
As our communities are facing budget shortfalls due to lost sales tax revenues due to COVID-19, it is more important now to crack down on these bad actor employers who steal from the beloved residences of Pasadena. Mayor Gordo, council members, construction tax fraud must be stopped. My name is Marcus Baisley. I am a resident of this beautiful city. My supporters are residents of this community, and we are proud union carpenters. We will not give up until something is done about these criminals who continue to defraud our city. We hope that you will support our Tax Fraud Days of Action, April 14th through 17th, by coming to one of the many events being held in the city. Thank you, Mayor Gordo. Thank you, City Council, and thank you to the city of Pasadena.
Thank you, Mr. Baisley. Okay, the next public speaker, David Hune, is not in the meeting, so we'll move on to Jane Ward, followed by Kat Ross, followed by Anne Marie Nee. So we'll bring in Ms. Ward. Ask that Ms. Ward unmute, and you may start your public comment now.
Hello, Mayor Gordo and Pasadena City Council members. I am a resident of the Pasadena area, and I'm speaking tonight because I want to join Black Lives Matter Pasadena, Pasadena Black Pages, Pasadena Commissioner Alan Shea, and My Tribe Rise in calling for the immediate firing of Chief John Perez. The community is asking for City Manager Stephen Mermel to remove Chief Perez for his department's cover-up of Anthony McLean's death and for his recent declaration that officers were acting appropriately in their brutal beating of Christopher Ballou during a traffic stop in Altadena. Racially motivated traffic stops have a long history in Pasadena, And similar to many cases around the country, when Pasadena PD stopped Chris Ballou, it ended in a police officer violently injuring a Black community member. Chris Ballou's leg was broken by police and his face bloodied. This happened at the gas station a few blocks from my home here in Pasadena. Also not far from my home is the street where Officer Edwin Dumagwindon shot and killed Anthony McLean during a traffic stop. This is not public safety. Police officers killing and beating my Black neighbors and then claiming it was justified does not make me feel safe. What would make me feel safe is to use some of the millions of dollars we currently allocate to policing and incarceration and to flood the community with social services. We need more programs and spaces and activities for young people, more funding for community-based programs that work with gang members that are not affiliated with the police, more economic and mental health support for people affected by unemployment, poverty, trauma, and over-policing in Pasadena. What would make me feel safe is to see consequences for Chief Perez and any and all police chiefs who cannot get their officers to end racial profiling and the targeted use of deadly force against Black.
1 minute.
For this reason, it is time for Chief John Perez to be fired and for Officer Edwin Dumagwindon to be fired and instituted under California AB 392. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will turn to, the speaker card says Cat Ross. We found a MX Ross that we will bring into the meeting and hope that that's the same person. Followed by Anne Marie Nee. Mr.
You got it right. Thank you so much.
All right.
I'm a resident of the Pasadena area also, and I'm speaking here today because I would like to know why Officer Edwin Dumagwindon, the officer who killed Anthony McLean, has not been fired and prosecuted under AB 392, which requires that deadly force only be used in situations in which it is necessary and no other options are available. This bill was supposed to be a breakthrough in the way policing is done. It is supposed to result in fewer killings by police. But so far, the bill has only been used once to prosecute an officer in San Diego who shot and killed a white man. As you know, people in the Pasadena community who are concerned about racial justice have protested, signed petitions, and written letters, but we still see no signs of accountability in this case. It was not necessary to use deadly force on Anthony McLean, and therefore, AB 392 must be allowed to do its work to deliver justice for Anthony, his family, and the community of Pasadena.
Thank you.
All right. We will turn to Anne Marie Nee, followed by Stephanie Blank, and Stephanie Blank will be the last public comment on matters not on the agenda. Anne Marie Nee, you may begin your public comment.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I've been a resident of the area for the past 10 years, and I'm speaking here today because I strongly believe that no one should be above the law. My family, many of my friends, my neighbors, we would like to know why the officer who killed Anthony McLean and those who stood by as he lay on the ground dying and did nothing have not been fired and prosecuted. Why wasn't the officer who shot him multiple times in the back not prosecuted under AB 392, as the previous speakers shared about? AB 392, it requires that deadly force only be used in situations in which it is necessary and no other options are available. And it was supposed to be a step towards accountability in how policing is done. But again, it's just another attempt at accountability that those holding power can choose to ignore. Again, the Pasadena Police Department have failed us by showing that they serve and protect their own above you and I and our community. AB 392 was supposed to result in fewer killings by police and real accountability for those who abuse their power. But so far, the bill has only been used as time to prosecute a police officer in San Diego who shot and killed a white man, who killed a white man, a white man. As you know, people in the Pasadena community who are aware of this story, they've spoken out, written letters, petitioned, protested, and we've mourned together. But we feel completely ignored. We see no signs of accountability in this case. It was not necessary to use deadly force on Anthony McLean, and therefore AB 392 must be allowed to do its work to deliver justice for him. and for his family. Pasadena Police Chief John Perez has claimed that video evidence shows McLean holding a gun, but I've seen the video, many of you have as well, and I can see no visible weapons, just like the LA Times has reported that no weapon is visible. I'm also very troubled that the video footage released to the public was edited by Pasadena PD with their own voiceover and visuals telling the public what they want us to see. It was not the complete record of the video that they had, and I'm truly disturbed by this. This does not inspire my confidence in the transparency of the Pasadena Police Department.
1 minute.
They need an investigation immediately. The Pasadena Police Department may want us to believe that this isn't about protecting their own, that it isn't acting as if their brothers and sisters get to live above the law. Some would have us believe that when it comes to abuse of power, we're talking only about a few bad apples. People want us to forget the entire saying, though. A few bad apples indeed spoils the entire bunch. We must hold the bad apples accountable, fire, and prosecute them under the same law you and I live under. If the Pasadena Police Department chooses to not hold their own accountable, then we know the answer. There have been a few bad apples, and they have spoiled the whole bunch. And my neighbors and I aren't going to sit back anymore and allow this to happen. We're demanding change, we're demanding justice, we're demanding abuse of power be checked by AB 392, and for an independent investigation immediately. Thank you very much for this time.
Thank
You.
you. And, the final public comment speaker on matters not on the agenda is Stephanie Blank. We will bring Ms. Blank into the,
Ms. Blank?
Hello.
you may proceed.
I am a resident of the Pasadena area, and I believe that it is time for our community to address racist police. After George Floyd was killed by the police in Minneapolis, Anthony McLean was killed by the police right here in Pasadena. Just like the video of George Floyd's killing, the video of Anthony McLean's killing shows an officer who did not de-escalate and was under no immediate threat, but who chose to take another Black man's life. Anthony McLean was running away from Officer Edwin DuMcGuinden. He was not advancing or struggling with an officer. He was not pointing a weapon. He was running away. This means it was not necessary for Officer Edward DuMcGuinden to use deadly force to save his own life or protect the community. But like so many officers before him, he saw a Black man running, and his first instinct was to shoot. This cannot be how Pasadena defines public safety. We must do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Was that it for public comment?
That's it for public comment on matters not on the agenda, Mayor.
Thank you. It, as is our practice, we'll adjourn, before we go to the consent calendar, we'll adjourn in memory of tonight's meeting and in memory of all those affected by COVID within and outside of Pasadena. I also wanted to flag that we have a new Metro Director, Mr. Kennedy, has pointed out that our new Metro Director is a resident of Pasadena, and we'll be inviting Ms. Wiggins to come to one of our council meetings to talk to us about her goals as it relates to Pasadena, and allow her to lay out the challenges before her and the giant agency, an important agency that she's taking control of. With that, let's go to the consent calendar.
Mayor, I need to abstain from number 3. I would like to. Esri is the vendor, and they actually support my work at my day job, so I'd like to abstain from agenda item number 3 in the consent calendar.
We'll wait for you to be removed.
Well, do you want to do everything, and I can make
Oh, sure. Why don't we take a motion for the balance?
Except for 3.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy? Could you?
Item that refers to the matter discussed with finance. I just want to get for future discussion.
You mean the
Improvement. So,
capital improvement budget? That's item 4, I believe.
yes. So I believe there are 3 items related to Sunset Reservoir in this particular capital improvement program budget. I understand that we cannot talk about everything at this point, but there are some concerns I have about the design, and I want an opportunity to at least share some design issues and safety issues prior to any work being done. So I believe Mr. Maloyan, Mr. Bawa, and our city manager are the responsible parties for that. I just want to have the assurances that we'll have those discussions with an opportunity to that project if it's warranted.
That matter's been routed to Municipal Services Committee, and I believe also the subject of litigation. Am I correct about that, Ms. City Attorney?
Oh, yes.
And so, Mr. Kennedy, why don't we let it proceed through with having your comments in mind through Municipal Services, and then at some point ask for an update from the City Attorney on the other aspects.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so the consent calendar has been moved with the exception of item 3. Roll call?
Was that by Mr. Wilson? Moved by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Ms.
Yes.
Williams?
Mr. Maxima.